What is going on, IVE Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we are going to talk about a new study that came out that touches on a very unique and brand new fasting system that may be able to help you lose weight quickly and lose body fat while preserving muscle. The setup is a little bit of a doozy, but I'm gonna go ahead and explain it for you. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Alright guys, quickly before we start, this video is brought to you by yours truly, Fledge Fitness and the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. If you haven't gotten yours yet, what are you waiting for? With an ergonomic design, aluminum handle, and swivel design, you can't go wrong with the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. Only $16.50. You can click on the top right hand corner of this video or down in the description box below. And of course, as always guys, thank you for your support. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay, so this study that they did touches on a new fasting method, or an up and coming fasting method that hasn't been widely used or accepted or known to the public. It's called sports fasting, and I'll break down how it works. But just so that you can get an idea of what it is, it's a mixture of basically everything. It's a mixture of calorie restriction, it's a mixture of reverse dieting, and a mixture of daily fasting with short-term fasting. It's all over the place, but I'm going to explain it so that you understand, and I'm going to show you the results as well as explain the limitations of the study, because there are a lot of limitations to the study. But remember, everything and every study that's released is still data. So jumping into the first major limitation and information of the study is that it used 107 males only, no females, just males, and they range from the age of about 21 to about 61. And they excluded a lot of people using dietary logs. So they did a 3-day dietary log. If somebody was low carb, they were excluded. If somebody was vegan, vegetarian, if somebody ate under 1,800 calories, all those people were excluded, because they just wanted people who already had a baseline of not having any type of aggressive intervention like low carb or vegetarian or vegan. Not to say that those things are healthy or unhealthy. They just wanted somebody with a baseline of not having any specific diet intervention. And they didn't want anybody below an 1,800 calorie per day count. And this study looked at body composition, it looked at fat mass and lean tissue. And it kind of separated itself between android fat and gynoid fat. Android fat is more of the upper body fat, so chest and abs and arms and shoulders, things like that, and back, while the gynoid fat focuses on lower body, like thighs, legs, hips, things like that. So this study showed that when they applied this sports fasting protocol, that the android fat was reduced more than the gynoid fat. Now, this does not mean that this particular protocol provides spot reduction of the upper body versus the lower body. It could just be the exercise that people use, or it could just be the genetics of how those particular people lose weight. Remember, women tend to build more fat in the legs, hips, thighs, while men tend to build more fat in the upper body, and this was exclusively all men. So please take this information with a grain of salt. But how does this sports fasting system work? I think this is probably the thing that you're itching to know about, and you're probably like, Edward, just get to it. Just tell me what it is. All right. It's a 10-day system. A 10-day system where there is 3 phases. Phase 1 is day 1, 2, and 3. Day 1, 2, and 3 has you eating 1,800 calories on day 1, 1,200 calories on day 2, and 800 calories on day 3. Then you move on to phase 2. Phase 2 is where the fasting protocol actually takes place, and you can say this is short-term mixed with long-term fasting, because what it does is it's day 4, 5, and 6. But on those days, you're only consuming 189 calories one time from a drink. Now, the drink has no protein, no fats, just carries about 11 carbohydrates. That's the drink. It's a fruit drink that you drink. It's kind of like a juice, but it's only 189 calories, which means you are basically fasting for those 3 days with a very low calorie count. And you are at minimum, even if you count those 189 calories, because you drink that one time, you're actually fasting for 23 hours. So basically, you're doing a very low calorie version of OMAD from a drink that contains about 11 carbs for 3 days straight. Then on phase 3, which is the final phase, which is day 7, 8, 9, and 10, you go in reverse from where you left off. It's 800 calories, 1200 calories, 1800 calories, and then 2200 calories on the final day, day 10. So this is somewhat of an inversion. I don't want to sound like the movie Tenet, but you're going in one direction, you're staying in the middle where it's like no calories at all, and then you're going in its opposite direction. So essentially, yeah, it's inversion. So this system is showing itself through this study, through this specific study. It's just a 10-day system that you can lose weight, because on average, all 107 men lost about 8.6 pounds, with the body fat mass percentage being really significant and substantial, while losing virtually no lean tissue, no lean mass at all. So they preserved their muscle while losing a substantial amount of body fat. And it was just within these 10 days. They were told to exercise, of course. They did this with cycling, in which they rode their bikes for 30 minutes per day with their heart rate at 70 to 75% of their max. And they exercise for minimum 3 times a week. So they wanted people who did recreational sports, non-professional athletes that had sports recreation already integrated into their lives. On top of that, they did the cycling 30 minutes a day. And of course, resistance training. But all of this compiled together, it showed substantial and significant fat loss while protecting muscle. But a few things to keep in mind in regards to this study. There's no women to be found, which I think is appalling, because you should have women so that you can get a more general idea of the general population. It was just European men. This was done in Europe. It was a European study, and they didn't have a control arm. They didn't have a control group. It was randomized, but they didn't have a control group. And the control group, it gives it more of it gives it a more weight, because we can see that under the same conditions, what will happen to a group that doesn't use sports fasting versus a group that does. And also, they did not measure or test the participants within each phase, which I found to be a missed opportunity, because you can find out what's happening during the fast, what's happening during the reverse dieting part, and what's happening during the time when they're reducing calories. You can kind of see which one is the more optimal one and see where you can take it from there. But this whole process, or the whole point of sports fasting, is to invert while creating a fasting method to switch to body fat burning, and then go right back into calorie reverse dieting, which is calorie increase, and then seeing if that preserves muscle while losing fat. That micro calorie reduction, fasting, reverse dieting 10-day system. Also, the study is not long term. It is only those 10 days. So we don't know if you continue to replicate this, if after that 10 day you just repeat the process. Is it effective? We don't know that. They did compare the study to other studies that looked at resistance trained males who did similar calorie intake in terms of just doing exclusively caloric restriction. The participants in this study lost way more body fat while preserving muscle, while the other study, they either lost body fat but lost a good amount of muscle as well, or they didn't lose that much body fat and preserve muscle. So this showed a more effective way to lose body fat while preserving muscle. And that's it. That's what it is. That's the sports fasting study. Now, please understand that sports fasting is very new. It's pretty new It's only really been talked about maybe starting in 2016 from my understanding. It's more popular in European countries like Ireland and things like that, so it's more popular there. In the United States, it's not well known, but it is very systematic. You do have to have certain proteins, carbs, and fats, and it is this inversion between reducing calories, fasting, and then increasing calories. And it's very detailed in terms of what you have to do. It's on point on every single thing. Essentially, you're not free to modify this protocol. You have to kind of follow it like a perfect guideline. This is only this one study. More studies have to come out. Longer term studies have to come out, and we have to see what the long-term effects of this are. They have to have a control group, because that's incredibly important. You need to throw in a control group in there, because that way we can know, under the same conditions, on the same playing field, randomize who does this not work for another group versus the group that is doing the sports fasting. Hopefully this video was enlightening for this new protocol that people are trying to implement. Please understand that this is not me saying go ahead and do this because this will happen. The study is flawed, but it is data, and it does pique my interest if something like this, if this micro reverse dieting with fasting and reducing calories, if this has some validity to protecting muscle while losing a substantial amount of fat. As always, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon, and I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here. And as always, guys, I'll see you on Wednesday for another FAQ. Peace!